If you are a beginner four-wheel driver and you're watching this, you're going to be way ahead because no one ever talks about the experienced four-wheel driver will definitely pick up some good tips. However, if you're a beginner and you want to know how to four-wheel drive, you come to the right place. Four-wheel driving and off-roading is not common knowledge. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 easy steps to get yourself out there. Easy peasy. Most beginners and some experienced people get this wrong before they even select four-wheel drive. They don't lower the tyre pressure until they're bogged, or they get the tyre pressure completely wrong. Lowering your tyres is simple, right? Well, the action is, but knowing the exact pressure you need for each situation is not clear for most people, and I get it. It's not common knowledge, it's trial and error, unless someone points you in the right direction, and that's what I'm here to do. The whole point of lowering our tyres is to gain a longer footprint. It's not the width, it's the length. Here are some tyre prints to help explain. 40 psi being highway pressure, the footprint isn't very big. Lowering them down to 25 psi, you can already see the footprint is getting longer, but it's not that much longer yet. Going down to 12 psi, this is where you can really see the difference. The footprint is so much longer. And again, it's about the length, not the width of the footprint. Lowering your tyres significantly increases the traction of your vehicle. Gives you more of a comfortable ride as the tyre becomes part of your suspension as a cushion. And it's not just about sand. It's about all the different types of terrain you could think of. And on top of that, less air you have in your tyre, the more it can mould around objects. For example, sharp rocks, sharp sticks. It protects your tyre from tyre puncture. We did a poll about tyre pressures. More than half the people who voted don't understand completely what tyre pressure they need. So the tyre pressures that I'm going to give you are right in between these two cars. From there on, you can fluctuate it a little bit to make it suit your vehicle. That's the best way. There's your starting point. Sand, mud, dirt, gravel, everything is right there. Starting point for vehicles that are medium size, so 2.5 ton to 3 ton, that's what most people have. If they're lighter or heavier, this is a very light vehicle. I've got big tyres. I'm down to 10 psi. Had the tyres been smaller, I'd likely be sitting around 12, 15 for soft sand. This one's got bull bar and everything on it. With slightly smaller tyres, we have got more pressure in the tyres in this vehicle than we do in the other vehicle. And that's because the weight is squishing it down. So it's getting the same footprint as a lighter vehicle. If you've got a heavy car, don't go too low, unless you need to. So how low can you go with your tyre pressure? You go as low as you need to. Whatever situation you might be in, if you're bogged, you could go down to 5 psi, not kidding, and that'll help you get out. If you have gone below 10 psi, once you get out, pump the tyres back up and then continue on. You may have heard some horror stories about the tyres coming off the actual wheels. That only really happens if you drive like a maniac and you are sub 12 psi. Most people that talk about this, it's probably never happened to them. And it's only happened to me a few times. And those few times when it happened, I got unlucky. Keep going. Or I was driving like a maniac. Having the right tyre pressure to keep you moving forward is more important than worrying about things that might happen. How do you know if your tyre pressure is too high? 2 examples, sand and dirt, hard surface. If it's too rough on the hard surface, you may have too much air in your tyres, or you may be going too fast. With the sand, on the other hand, you need momentum. You can't just slow down too much. Struggling to stay on top of the sand, or you're struggling to plough through the sand, you may need to stop, let some more air out, and then take off. On the other hand, with the rough stuff, if you are too low and you hit a rock at speed, you could damage your rim. So you don't want to go too low on the hard stuff. If it's too rough, you're going too fast. Finish four-wheel driving and you're ready to hit the highway, do pump those tyres up again. Because if you don't, 25 psi and below at highway speeds, don't do it. Don't risk it. All the steel cords and belts inside the rubber will chafe at the rubber itself. It will get too hot and it will disintegrate from the inside. So when you least expect it, your tyres are done. So get yourself a cheap compressor if you've got smaller tyres. If you can afford bigger tyres, you can afford a decent compressor. Next one is something that catches out the experienced four-wheel driver. I've been caught out a few times. But you can fix this by doing one simple thing, and that is turning off traction control. Traction control causes so many issues when you're off-road, and people just are not aware of it.
Traction control the whole bloody way up and I just didn't make it.
If you're a beginner and you're hearing about this now, because no one talks about it, you are going to be so far in front. You can have the right tire pressure, the right gear, the right everything, but if that system kicks in at the wrong time, you are not going to know what's going on. You're going to think it's just your vehicle that's behaving like that, which it is, but you can actually turn it off. Pressing a button and turning it off, it'll say on your dash on most vehicles, traction control off. But guess what? It's not off, it's in the background. You've got to work out how to turn it off in the background. On a Toyota in particular, you have to hold the button down. Now it's turned off proper. Stability control's turned off, anti-collision is turned off. Now the vehicle won't interfere with you. You've got to make sure you're in park or neutral. You can't do it while you're driving, unfortunately.
Stupid traction control, can't turn it off.
You might be halfway up a hill or something, and you can see the thing flashing on your dash. There's nothing you can do about it until you stop.
Traction control.
And in those situations, you don't want to stop because you're halfway up or halfway through an obstacle. At some point, if your vehicle has it, it's going to catch you out. Guess what? Every single time you turn the vehicle off, the system will reset itself. Every single time you start that car again, you are going to have to turn traction control off. If your 4x4 has high range and low range options, when do you use it and what does it actually do? Let me simplify it. Doesn't matter what vehicle you are driving, selecting between H4 and L4 is, in other words, selecting two different gear ratios within your transfer case. Your transfer case decides if you're in 4 high or 4 low. So when you flick it, you'll either be a 1-to-1 ratio, that's in high range, 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, but when you flick it to low range, to simplify things, 1-to-3 ratio, meaning you are slowing the vehicle down to 1/3 of the speed. Reduction gear means you got more control, more torque, less effort for your vehicle to climb obstacles. It really assists the vehicle. It turns the vehicle into a super vehicle. However, your speed is reduced. So your top speed will likely be around 40 kilometers per hour. And sitting at 40 kilometers per hour, you'll be revving its tits off. I don't know if I can say that, but you'll be revving its tits off. This vehicle in particular has a 1-to-2.4 ratio. It slows the vehicle down 2.4 times, therefore giving you a much slower controlled speed. Today's a nice cruisy day on the beach. This beach can get soft, but I'm currently in high range. It's going fine, I've got the right tyre pressure. However, there will be a point where I will need to go to low range. Here are 5 ideal situations where you would use low range. Soft sand. If the sand is soft and it's bogging you down, even with low pressure, low range gearing is what you want. Steep climbs up rocky terrain or uneven terrain where you need controlled speed. In particular, steep descents. You really need good controlled speed, first gear low, and you can only achieve that in low range gearing. Recoveries. Generally speaking, with a recovery, you want to be in second gear low. If you're winching, first gear low. And of course, technical terrain, where you need controlled speed, driving over boulders, rocks, anything technical. You don't want to be surging too much. You want a nice crawling speed, as much control as you can. Treat it with respect when it's in low range. You are putting more shock load through the system. So if you are jamming that accelerator, you are using it and abusing it, you're more likely to break something. And here are 5 ideal situations where you would only use high range. If you're starting to top out on your speed, like if you need to go faster than 40 kilometers per hour, ideally you don't want to be in low range anymore. So give your vehicle a break because the engine will be revving a lot higher, be singing a lot. Long distance gravel roads, ideal to use 4-wheel drive, high range. It's a safety feature of your vehicle. It'll keep you more steady on the road. Slippery surfaces, for example, snow, ice, you want to be in 4-wheel drive, but don't be in it for too long if the road starts drying up, because then you get bind up. You don't want that. A long beach run or long sand tracks, you want to be in high range. You may have a long distance to go. If your vehicle can handle it at speeds over 40 kilometers per hour, and it's an ideal speed to sit on, just stay in high range. You don't need low range for a lot of things. However, if your vehicle is struggling to maintain 40 kilometers per hour, or even 50 kilometers per hour, you're probably going to want to go back to low range if you can't do it in high range. Keeping this video as short and as simple as I can, I will just touch on this. In some vehicles, like this one in particular, it has something called diff lockers, front and rear. You can only use that in low range. Not every vehicle has it. Actually, not that many vehicles have them. But if you have a modern dual cab, you may have a rear locker. This will only work if you're on low range. Right now, this is either a 5-minute job, but if I keep trying, it could turn into a 2-hour job, maybe even longer. Know when to recover your car. Often people don't realize how much their wheels are sinking into the ground, especially with an automatic. So you're not moving anywhere, you take your foot off the brake, your wheels start spinning and they're actually digging themselves down even further. And you're not really moving, stop the vehicle. This is where it's a 5-minute job rather than a 2-hour job. And it's not just about recovering your vehicle, it's also about assisting your vehicle. If I had a short run up and I couldn't get out of this bowl by normal methods like lowering my tyres more, turning traction control off, selecting low range, I've done all the right things, but I still can't get out. Assist your vehicle. Find some rocks, pack the holes in, fill the holes in with sand perhaps, if that's the problem, or get some max tracks and throw down. You've got to change something. You can't do the same thing over and over. It's not going to work. All it's going to do is cause more stress on your vehicle, more stress on yourself, and you're going to dig holes in the track for everyone else behind you. We've covered sand a lot, but this doesn't just end there. Even in a sketchy situation where there's ruts, you can use things to build up the holes. You can fill the holes up with rocks or sand or any material that's lying around to assist you in going forward. If you're not sure, do something about it. Don't just drive it and hope for the best, because that's generally when things go wrong. The final step to complete all 5, you must go and check out the top 10 items you must have to go 4-wheel driving, 4-wheeling, overlanding, whatever you want to call it. Combine that with this knowledge and you can call yourself a 4-wheel driver. Good luck and thanks for watching.